All right, it's going to be a nice hour-ish stretch today. Things that are suggested but not 100% necessary at the moment, but a strap of some kind, um, either a towel, a strap, a jump rope, a dog leash, a long t-shirt, something that might help you reach your feet a little bit later. 1 to 2 yoga blocks or a foam roller or something to potentially rest your head on later. And then a blanket's always a great thing to have, either to help you sit a little more tall, um, or just provide comfort in some other way at some point today. All right, let's first arrive in this moment. Taking a nice, easy seated position of your choice, Sukhasana or easy cross-legged position, half lotus, full lotus, Virasana on your shins, whatever you like. Try to find a nice tall seat, lengthening from the base of your spine into your sacrum, all the way up through the mid-spine, trying to lengthen the crown of your head up to the clouds. Deep breaths. Start to calm the movements of your mind using the power of your breath. Let's begin with thinking of a mantra for yourself for today. Today is a special day. It is November 11th, 2020, 11/11/2020. A lot of repeating numbers there, a lot of potentiality from now until the rest of this year is over. Start a new moon coming. A lot of things can change for the better, starting with this moment, starting with the control you take to feel good. Think of that mantra for yourself. If there's anything that you encounter difficult or that might irritate you a little bit within today, repeat that mantra to give you strength to get through it. Embrace the change. It is exactly what you need to get to where you are destined to go. All right, we'll start working from the neck down today. So easy seated position. Well, first, if you have any discomfort or sharp pain in any movement, please discontinue that movement and do something else like not moving the neck or a nice child's position or laying on your back to be a little more passive in whatever it might be. The things that we do here today are a general wellness, not necessarily specific to any injury, to rehabilitate or to fix. You know your body more than I do, especially over the internet. But if there is something you need to specifically talk about with me, I would love to help. Reach out, and I can always provide options and modifications to anything that we do. Especially if you plan on joining the class ahead of time, reach out hey, what's bothering you? I would love to be able to program those into the class with thoughtful for you, right? All right, starting off with neck rolls. We'll bring the chin to the chest, and then right ear, right shoulder. Gently start to find some spinal extension, gazing upward gently. Left ear, left shoulder, chin to chest. Find those rolls. Maybe you get a little bit of crunchies, but it's not abnormal. Let's start to work it out. Inhale up. Exhale, chin to chest. Inhale up. Maybe you start to make bigger circles. Exhale, chin to chest. Start to get some grease, energy into the joints, moving our chi. You get one more full circle. Meet at chin to chest, shoulders down and back. We'll start to go the other direction. Inhale, left ear, left shoulder over. Exhale, start to find right ear to right shoulder, chin to chest. Inhale as you make your way up to extension. Exhale, find the round. You don't have to get to full extension, even just neutral. And then ear to shoulder, chin to chest. Feel your neck. Feel what feels good for you. If there's any places that are kind of sticky, you kind of work through those a little bit more. Wiggle it off. Let's get some shoulder shrugs here. Really trying to loosen up the traps, that upper neck area. We'll squeeze pretty hard for 5 seconds and then a heavy release on an exhale. We'll do that 3 times. Ready? Inhale. Big squeeze, shoulder shrug. 2, 3, 4, 5. Release. 2 more of those. Big squeeze. Inhale. 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, release. Uno más. Inhale. 3, 4, 5. Exhale, release. Heavy shoulders. Wiggle it off. All right, now instead of finding the rounds, we're going to hold shoulder or hold ear toward the shoulder, right? I'm going to go to the right side first. So let's put the left hand behind the back like a half bind. Try to have the top of the hand on the lower back. That'll keep that opposite shoulder down. We'll gently start to pull from the ear to try to get the other ear as close as you can toward that shoulder direction. If you can grab around underneath your jaw, that'll really help open up the scalenes, a lot of those lateral and like anterior lateral neck muscles that either from sleeping or working on a computer or reading or texting, you get tight, you get restricted. Breathe into it. Gently release the hand and you'll inhale slowly. Wiggle it off. We're going to do everything on the left side first before we go to the right. All right, wiggle it off just for a reset. Same thing, take that half bind behind you. Right? Now, we're going to go like smell your armpit stretch, I like to call this one. We'll take a diagonal grip, so on that posterior or rear kind of back corner of your head. And then the elbow, that's the direction you're trying to pull, kind of going towards smelling your armpit. So hopefully they don't smell too bad this morning. Should be feeling this more on the back left side of the neck into the traps more than the front of the neck. Shoulder down, left shoulder down, really open up those trapezius. And exhale, find some comfort. Exhales, release the tension. Don't pull too hard. Just a little bit of overpressure on top of the gravity. Gently release, inhale back to center. Wiggle it off a little bit, get some movement, a little bit of fluidity. Last one before we go to the other side. This one I like to call the snooty stretch, like a kind of deal. It works for me. We'll find the half bind behind your back again to keep that shoulder down and depressed. Now we're grabbing the front left corner of the head, opening up through this front quarter of the neck. Here, gazing up to like the corner of where your ceiling meets the wall. Maybe you get a little Popeye chin to the right side. If there's any compression feeling in the opposite side of the neck, release some of that pressure and do it a little more actively than with this overpressure from the hand. If you don't know what a Popeye chin is, I guess you have never seen Popeye. Gently release and inhale to center. And exhale, release. Find some shoulder shrugs. All right, same 3 stretches on the opposite side. Potentially is going to feel a little bit different. That's normal. All right, right hand now does the half bind behind the back. You're opening up the front of this shoulder to help lengthen the attachments. All right, we started off with grabbing the ear or underneath the chin if you can reach there. And left ear toward left shoulder. No looking up, just finding that straight and lateral flexion. On your next inhale, gently release slowly. Remove the bind. Wiggle it off a little. Same thing with the reverse bind. Now we get the smell your armpit. So grabbing that rear right quarter of the back of the head, leading with the elbow, gazing toward your armpit. You should feel it in that back part of the neck. If there's any crunching on the opposite side, like a compression, try to bring that shoulder down, creating more space. That could help. Gently inhale to release or reset. Wiggle out the shoulders a little bit slowly. Let some of that muscle grabbing happen in between the fibers. All right, snooty stretch for the finish. Right hand behind the back. Find that half bind. Now we grab more of the front part of the head, front right corner, and we're looking up toward the ceiling, kind of corner ceiling wall. If you can find toward the chin, go for it. Keep the shoulder depressed downward on the right side. And the opposite shoulder depressed as well to relieve some potential compression. Inhale, gently release. We'll take 3 more shoulder shrugs to reset and find neutral here. Just like before, 5 seconds strong. Inhale, and then heavy release. Ready? Inhale, strong. Make the trap muscles, give them what they want to shorten here if they're feeling tense. And then exhale, release heavy shoulders, lengthening. Again, 2 more. 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax. One more time. Inhale, squeeze. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Relax. All right. I feel a little better there. Good. I hope you do too. All right, moving on. We got the neck. Let's work our way down onto the mat. We're going to get a child's pose here and work from that position for a few stretches. Right, so child's pose, you want to have your big toes touching. The knees will open wide. Arms lengthen well out in front of you. Trying to keep your middle of the eyes on the mat. Find nice grounding through the center of your head. Reach the fingertips out. Maybe you crawl them a little bit more further. And then try to push the sacrum, push the butt back a little bit more. Really lengthening in your spine underneath your armpits. On your next inhale, we'll gently rise up just a little bit, not all the way, just enough to thread the right arm underneath and through, cross your body, and then push back into your child's pose. We're trying to keep the elbow and the wrist in line with the shoulder, the right shoulder. Once you're there, right shoulder threaded through, we'll start to inhale and look toward the right, twisting toward the right, finding a nice stretch on the outside of the right shoulder, your deltoids. Keep that shoulder down and locked in. Every stretch we do should be a little bit active to protect the joints. Without props for alignment, we have to be active. Exhales, release the tension. And we inhale. Find your center, neutral child's pose. And we'll start to make our way toward the left arm, threading the needle. Cross the body, right? Then push the hips back and down. Lengthen the right arm out in front. Start to gaze over the left shoulder. Twist toward the left. Feel a nice lengthening on the outside of that left shoulder there. Hold so much tension in our shoulders. Give yourself some love. If we can tell the body to relax with our mind and our breath, we definitely have a better chance of finding the relief, letting go. And we'll gently inhale, start to get a little taller, remove the arm, place it back for a neutral child's pose. Little side bend here. Push your hips back all the way. Try to get your bum to your heels. And then we'll start to sway the body over to the left. So just crawl the hands out to the left. Open up to the right side body. Re-push the hips back. Just a little side bend here. The more you get your arms to the side, the more you'll open up through that rib cage and underneath the right shoulder. The inhales, expand rib cage. Exhales, find a little more lengthening. Inhale, tiptoe the fingers back to the center. And exhale, start to creep the fingers out toward the other side of the mat, the right side. Lengthen out the left arm. Maybe you put the left arm on top of the right hand. Inhales, expand rib cage. Exhales, find a little more melt, side bend. Explore your body. Inhale, bring it back to the center, creep the fingers. Exhale, push the hips back a little bit more into a deeper child's pose. All right, let's make your way up to a tabletop position. So your hands will be right under the shoulders here. We're going to take a puppy pose. So this is trying to find a nice heart opener here and a shoulder opener into shoulder flexion. Also, goal, maybe, if possible, is to try to have our chin to open on the mat as well. If that's too much in the neck, you'll still just find that resting your forehead on your mat, right? So option is forehead or option is opening up the front of the neck, right? Let's extend the arms out forward, reach like that nice dog stretch I'm sure you've seen before. The knees either slightly behind or right under the hips. Start to melt your chest toward the mat, lifting your tailbone up into the ceiling. Maybe you gaze up, try to drop your chin on the mat if that's too much for the neck. Release onto the top of your, or onto your forehead, right? You can also find your knees a little bit more back. Maybe then you can drop your heart a little bit more. It's not necessary, but explore yourself here. Gently tuck the tailbone underneath you. Start to slide forward onto your chest. Release the arms. Take a little break for a second. All right. Let's push back to a tabletop with the knees under the hips. We're going to work some cat-cow and some gentle wrist stretches here. Working our way a little bit lower down into the spine now. Mid-spine. First, you want to find a strong grip of the hands on the floor to protect your wrist. Rotate the elbow creases forward and find a slight rounding of your upper back just so your scapulas don't pop out yet. Knees under the hips. Neutral spine. Tailbone lengthens. This is your neutral. We'll inhale, start to drop the heart and gazing upward as you lift your tailbone, find your cow. Shoulders pinch a little bit together in the back. Exhale, round and spread your shoulder blades for cat. We'll find 2 more or 3 more of those on your own pace. When you're done with those 3, find neutral. Inhale, cow. Exhale, round. cat. Couple more. Let's push back onto the knees. All right. Some wrist stretches, important to work from the ground up with whatever we use to touch the floor. Hands and feet are important. All right. So for this one, we're going to start off with wrist, stretching the wrist flexors by going into wrist extension. The fingertips will go toward the knees, elbow crease rotates forward. That's external rotation of your shoulders to open up the front, broadening their collarbones, right? We'll really grip the ground here with your fingers, active hands to protect the wrists here. Start to shift back, bum toward the heels. Don't let the hands lift off the floor. Really find as much as you can here. And then when it's about, okay, I'm finding that edge, start to breathe it out. Exhales, relieve tension. Let your breath be louder than your thoughts. Gently release forward. Bringing the wrist off the ground, bending the elbows, sit onto the heels. Grab your hands, take some wrist circles, one direction, the other direction, or just flop it out. Whatever feels good. Just try to neutralize after that stretch slightly. All right, next we're going wrist flexion to stretch the wrist extensors. This one's going to be a little more intense. Fingertips face the knees. All 10 fingers, try to put the fingertips on the floor actively. Elbow crease rotates forward, shoulders back. Start to lean into the heels, keeping the tops of the wrists down on the mat. If you ever had tennis elbow, this is something you did to fix it. Or maybe you type a lot. Opening up the wrists is important. Or if you're like me and do a lot of handstand stuff, your wrists are probably a little tighter in extension. So this should feel real nice. Breathe it out. Gently peel the wrists off, slowly getting your way toward the knuckles. Let it release. Give yourself a little whatever you need, wiggle it out. Find some gentle wrist circles. Maybe you grab each other, the hands, and do a few more circles either direction. All right. Ooh, yeah, my favorite shoulder stretch coming on up. Sleeper stretch. This is where you might want a pillow or a block or something to rest your head so you can provide some comfort and alignment. If not, it's fine. It just might not be as comfortable as it could be. This is a great stretch. We're going to do a three-way sleeper stretch, starting off with the neutral. All right. So neutral, this is where your elbow is even with the shoulder. We'll try to tuck the shoulder underneath you so that your shoulders are stacked on top of one another, hips are stacked on top of one another as well, right? Relax the head. Your right arm is one that we're going to stretch. The left hand will push elbow at 90 degrees, push the palm toward the floor, kind of like you're binding or half binding for bird of paradise or extended side angle or so many other things. This is a good prep. If it's hard to bind, this is a great exercise to work on. Or if you do a lot of swimming or throwing balls, Your arm balances, handstands. Our rotator cuff does so much work and so many things that we do. Internal rotation is something we might forget about. Finding a little bit of more overpressure now that you've been into it for about 15, 20 seconds. Hold it for a little bit longer. Gently inhale and release. So we're going to try this in 3 different angles just to get different heads of the muscle. So we were at elbow even with shoulder. Now we'll go elbow slightly above the shoulder, maybe 30 or 40 degrees higher than the shoulder. Same thing with the 90 degrees at the elbow. We'll push back down again. It just might be a different sensation here. Don't let the shoulder pop up toward the ear as you do this. Keep it engaged actively away from the shoulder. Away from the ear. Relax, breathe into it. Something real good for your shoulders and your neck to help relieve tension. Gently inhale to release that. One more, the opposite of that. So find that even with elbow and shoulder, and then we'll drop it down about 30 to 40 degrees lower than the shoulder. You might have to open up your 90 degree at the elbow a little bit more in case your hand is touching your body and you can't go lower, right? But still try to find 90 degrees at the elbow, and then we'll internally rotate, pushing down on the wrist from here. Shoulder stays away from the ear. On an inhale, we'll gently release. Let it just flop out there a little bit. We'll do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to go to my other side of the mat just so you can see me. You're not looking at my butt the whole time. For you, you can go whatever way you want. All right, rest your head on the pillow if you had it. Shoulders stack on top of one another. Plug the shoulder underneath you so it doesn't come up toward the ear. Hips are on top of one another as well. We'll do the first one, elbow even with shoulder. Right hand presses the wrist downward to try to low five the ground. Maybe you get there, maybe you don't. We're waiting for our bed for a while, our like actual bed. So we've been sleeping on a air mattress with a topper for the last, I guess, few weeks, while. So we just got a new bed. So there's going to be this adjustments happening, and my neck was really tight this morning. So hopefully today helps feel better for me and for you. A couple more breaths. Inhales, exhales, and you find a little more overpressure. Inhale, we gently release. And then we'll find the elbow about 30 to 40 degrees higher than the shoulder. Still 90 degrees at the elbow. Right hand comes on top of the left wrist, and we'll start to internally rotate the humerus in the glenohumeral joint. Nerd out time. So this is internal rotation, right? Stretching the external rotator muscles. Find your exhales to relieve some tension, take some movements of the mind out of it. Next inhale, gently release. And then we got our third stretch in the rotator cuff. Elbow about 30 to 40 degrees lower than the shoulder. 90 degrees still at the elbow joint. And then we'll start to internally rotate the left hand down. Every angle you might feel a little bit different, right? Some might be easier than others. Still works, even if you can touch the floor. If you can touch the floor with the hand, really try to lock in the shoulder to find that even a millimeter difference. And locking in will help to stretch the origin of the muscle versus just letting it be floppy, then you'll just kind of stretch wherever it goes. Next inhale, you gently release. Lay on your back. Give yourself a little hug here, like a really tight hug, stretching out the outside of the shoulders. Just create some neutrality there. We'll switch it up, other side. Big hug. Try to touch the back of your shoulder blades. Release just for a moment. I think we're going to get up after this. Yes, for a few upper body stretches on the wall. So if you need something like a break right now, like water, go for it. Just going to check our time. Perfect. All right. We got wall chest, wall dog, and wall side bends. Kind of going with what we did on the floor, just adding a little bit more. All right, wall chest stretch. We're going to go with that half bind behind the back. So right arm behind the back. If you don't have a wall, that means you're outside, so you probably have a tree. Same thing. Right? So right arm, half bind behind the back, shoulder presses away from the ear to lengthen the collarbone downward. We'll have the left arm on the wall, maybe 90 degrees at that elbow to open up through more of the pec minor and that front of the shoulder area. If you want to explore, you can always make the arm a little more straight and overhead, but find what feels sticky here and stick with that one, right? These are all recommendations, but you can always explore a little bit deeper. That's what it's all about. Once you find what you want to stick with, try to then open up away from that stretch, really broadening through your collarbones here, gazing toward the opposite side of the stretch. And gently release. Same thing, other side. If you have like a little lip for something or like some crown molding, that's a real good place to use. So you can use that as a leverage. So stretching the right arm, then the left arm comes behind the back to find that shoulder depressing away from the ear. And then we'll start to find your sticky point. Once you find your sticky point, then we'll start to rotate away from it and gazing toward the opposite side. If you've noticed your rib cage puffing out, try to bring your tailbone a little bit longer down to engage the abs, which will then lengthen your spine and you'll feel a little extra stretch without your ribs puffing out. Let's release that. We'll do it again so we can get a little deeper into it second time around. Right arm behind the back. Find your half bind. Arm on the wall. If you want to find something different here, you go for it. Right? Start to twist away from it. Open up, rib cage down. Gaze over the shoulder. And inhale, gently release. Feels pretty nice. Same thing, other side. Half bind behind the back. Find your position. Elbow on the wall or straight arm. We start to open up. Tailbone down. Rib cage comes toward the front of the hips. And rotate away. Gently inhale to release. All right. Shoulders feel pretty nice. All right, we got wall dog, kind of like that puppy pose we did, but we're taking the knees out of it because we're on the wall instead. I like this one. Feet under the hips to start, and then we'll readjust in a moment. Place the hands on the floor, I'd say about shoulder height or maybe just under the shoulders. We'll start to walk the feet back, stacking them underneath the hips, melting your heart through, maybe actively helping by bringing your shoulder blades a little bit closer together and shoulders down and away from the ears. If your tailbone's popping up, you'll feel that a little bit more into the hamstrings. If you start to bring the tailbone to lengthen toward the floor and then refined heart melting through, you'll see the difference in its attachments underneath the armpit stretch a little more, opening up that shoulder flexion, creating some more freedom in your shoulders. They should be free. They're the most mobile joint in our body, only attaching at the SC joint, which is the sternum and the clavicle where they attach. Everything else is just by muscles and tendons. Exhales, find depth. Inhales, find length. Exhales a little bit deeper. Tailbone lengthens downward. Gently inhale to release. All right, side bends, and then we'll go back down to the floor. All right, side bends here. So if whatever side you're stretching, that's the foot that'll go behind the other foot. Think of like a skiing on one ski, water ski or snow, depending on where you're from, right? So I'm going to go with my right side stretching. So I'm going to put the right foot behind the left heel. The toes are pretty much just behind the left heel. Left hand on the wall just for some safety. Inhale, right arm up and across, gazing up toward that hand. Once your hand goes on the wall, try to push the hips a little more out, opening up the chest, tailbone lengthens down, gazing up, maybe stretching a little bit more through your scalenes. But we're trying to feel that in the front hip-ish area and through your side body, getting the psoas and hip flexors and maybe even your lats, those big pull-up kind of muscles. Gently inhale and release off the wall. Left hand pushes for help. Oh yeah, that's a good one. All right, so I'll just face the other direction. Same thing, but different. So left foot comes behind the right heel, so you can stretch open the left side of your body. Place the right hand on the wall for some safety. Inhale, left arm comes overhead. As you exhale, start to find your hand toward the wall. Shoulder locks back away from the ear. Tailbone lengthens down for stability. And then we start to find some opening toward the ceiling, gazing up with your eyes, maybe stretching more of the neck and your scalenes. Trying to work that lateral hip, front hip. Gently inhale, push off the wall with the right hand, release the left hand. Bicep stretch before we go back down. A couple options here. If you can grab the hands behind and the palms touch, awesome. If not, you can always find palms not touching, but we still want to try to find an opening of the shoulders and a lengthening of the elbows to really stretch the bicep kind of area, right? If you can't do this at all, a towel would be great to kind of hold the towel here, and then you'll rotate the palms to go more toward the bum, and then you'll just creep in as close as you can on the towel to find the same thing we're going to do here, right? So I'm grasping my hands, shoulders down and back away from the ears, tailbone lengthens, sternum lifts. Exhale, find a forward fold here. Bending the knees is a great option here to help the spine be long. Right? If the forward fold isn't your friend, just stay tall and lift the palms away from the bum. If this is okay, now we try to bring the pinkies as much as you can overhead and let the head be long. Release the hands onto the floor if you're there. Grab the elbows, let it all hang low. Do they wobble to and fro? Gently round up if you are in that forward fold. Nice. All right. Let's work our way back down to the floor. We're going to start working on the lower body for the finish here. Good job. All right. First one we got, just to kind of warm up the hips a little bit, low lunge to half splits. We'll do a few reps first and then hold for about 5 breaths, right? So if you need a block or something, or even a dumbbell or a bunch of books, that might help to keep the ground a little bit closer to you, especially because we didn't really do too much warming up of anything because this is a deep stretch class, right? Low lunge, back knee on the floor or right behind the hip or right under the hip, tailbone lengthening down toward the ground. We'll inhale, arms overhead. Shoulders away from the ears. Let's bend the right elbow. Grab the right elbow with your left hand. Find a nice tricep stretch here. You can even use the back of the head to help find the elbow going more toward your back body. Don't lose the engagement of your core. Tailbone lengthens down. Exhale. We'll find half split to the low lunge reps, right? Shift onto the back knee, lengthen the front leg. Exhale. Inhale to the low lunge. Open your heart forward. Exhale, shift back onto the back knee, half split. Starting to open up the hamstring a little bit. Inhale, low lunge, fingertips. Exhale, half split. All right, blocks are good because they help to keep your spine long. If you are rounding your spine here at all, you can put a little more compression on it than you need to. We're trying to lengthen the crown of the head forward with every inhale. Every exhale finds a forward fold, but leading with your sternum so you can find a long spine. Shoulder blades pinch back to create the length as well. Right hip forward, left hip back. Sink into this one for a little bit here. Toes actively up toward the knee. You'll feel a stretch of the calf doing that. Inhale back to your low lunge. Plant the hands. Step back, little tabletop position. We'll do a couple of cat and cows just to kind of round it out. Inhale, gaze up, cow. Exhale, round spine, cat. If that doesn't feel good, just keep the neutral to find the extension for cow, and then neutral for cat, right? Inhale, cow. Exhale, neutral or cat, round. Making our way to the other side of this lunge hip flexor stretch. Right foot forward. If you need the block, go for it. Don't be afraid to use props. You want to be aligned. Right, back knee under the hip, or for a little more intensity, behind the hip with the back knee. We'll inhale, start to get tall. Tailbone lengthens down. Left hip forward, right hip back, squaring off the hips. And then you'll see that maybe one hip is higher than the other. Try to find evenness. Your right hip's going to want to come up. So right hip down, left hip up. Inhale, arms overhead. Start to bend the left elbow. Find a nice tricep stretch in the left side. Opening up to the fascia from under the arm all the way down to the hip. Push the hips forward. We'll open up maybe toward the ceiling slightly. And gently release that on an exhale. We'll start to make your way to half split reps to the low lunge to kind of rock it out a little bit before we hold it. Inhale, low lunge, heart forward. Exhale, shift back. Half split, back knee under the hip. Oh yeah. Inhale, low lunge. Exhale, half split, long spine. One more time, each direction. Inhale, low lunge. Exhale, hips back, half split. Let's hold it here. Try to find right hip back, left hip forward, right toes up toward the right knee, stretching out the whole posterior chain there. Try to find shoulder blades coming together in the back to lead with your sternum. Open the heart, finding some spinal extension in your forward fold. In order to protect the spine, think spinal extension in forward folds. And then if you're doing back bends, you want to try to find a little bit of spinal or towards spinal flexion. Like in a back bend, you engage your core to have a neutral as possible spine. Right hip back, left hip forward. Don't forget, square it off. Exhales, release tension. Inhales, create length. Exhales, fill it. And gently come back into your low lunge. We'll plant the hands, step back, tabletop, couple cat cows, or the neutral cows. Inhale for cow, spinal extension. Exhale for either neutral or all the way through to cat, rounding the upper back, bringing the tailbone downward, creating your ab muscles a little bit. Inhale one more time for cow. Open the heart. Exhale, round for cat. And we'll inhale to neutral. All right. Let's sit on the knees just for a moment, or sit on the shins for your virasana. We're going to start working into the quads here a little bit. So, favorite quad stretch. We did this last week as well. It'll probably be a staple because we've got to keep our quads open and ready for action. All right, I'm going to do it this direction today so you can see it from the lateral side. The closer the knee is to the wall, the more intense this stretch will be. So you'll kind of feel it pretty quickly to see where you're going to have the knee, right? You might want to put a towel under the knee or fold the mat a couple of times to create a little more cushion. If not, it could be uncomfortable for a reason that it doesn't need to be uncomfortable for, right? So top of the left foot goes on the wall and your knee comes as close to the wall as possible. The foot will be slightly outside the butt. Right foot comes in front for a little bit of a lunge kind of position here. We'll inhale, press into the right thigh with the right hand. Try to find squaring off of the hips. You might have to do some adjustments, right? Tailbone lengthens downward. Right hip back, left hip forward. Left hip a little bit higher, right hip a little bit lower. Maybe you find arms overhead. A little bit of a tush squeeze forward to get a little more lengthening through the front of the thigh, right? If just putting your hands on your knee is enough stretch for the back here, go with it, stay with it, right? The more that we do this, the more familiar it will be, the more you can get into it. And we'll exhale to plant the hands and release that stretch. Oh yeah, that's a good one. Whew. Forgot my pillow, so I'm going to put a pillow or a blanket. Same thing, other side. So you set up as close as you feel like you could. Knee toward the wall. Further the knee is away from the wall, the less intense the stretch will be. Right foot on top of the wall. Left foot comes in front to find your low lunge. Press left hand into the thigh. And then we'll start to make adjustments once we find our positioning. Right? Left ankle right in that left knee. Tailbone lengthens downward. Right hip up, left hip down. Trying to square off the hips and create neutral hips as best as we can. Inhale, arms overhead. Maybe get a little tush squeeze forward. You'll feel the difference. Keeping your tailbone lengthening down to reduce pressure in the low back. And exhale, plant the hands. Come onto both knees just to create a little evenness here. And if this position hurts either the tops of the feet or even the knees, this is where a block would also come in handy. You can sit on the block or one block or two blocks. Still working into this. When I first started doing this posture, because I ran a lot, my front of my thighs and the front of my ankles were like, no thanks. So I used two blocks before I can get down. This is a great meditation posture as well, especially with a block. It helps to create more length in your spine for some people than that cross-legged position, because a lot of us have tight groins and tight hip flexors. Sometimes it makes sitting in that position uncomfortable. So if you do meditate for 10 or 20 minutes, it is really important to find sturdy and comfortable in the position. Blocks and props will help. All right, let's remove that block if you were doing that. Oh yeah, diamonds and butterflies. I like this. So working into the groins. Speaking of that, if you have a towel or a blanket, it's also a great idea to use this to create a little lift in the spine so you can have a long neutral spine. See where we're at? Oh wow, yeah. Right toward the end here. All right. So diamond or butterfly posture. We've all kind of done this one. Put your heels together. Soles of your feet touch. Lengthen your spine toward the sky. Try to open up the feet like a book and press your elbows into the calves. We'll exhale, start to hinge forward, opening up through the groin. Find a little bit of a spinal extension here to create long spine, and then your exhales find a little more fold forward. Just inhale to release. All right, big groin stretch here. Frog pose. So this one, just like that quad stretch, something that you should do more often. All right, so find a good space here for your feet to go behind you. We'll start to rest on top or on the sides of the knees, or almost the sides of the thighs. Your knees will be at 90 degrees, so not all the way open, not all the way closed, just kind of halfway. Opening them up Scooping your tailbone a little bit underneath you. If this is enough with your hands on the floor, stay there, right? If you can get your forearms to the ground, or kind of like that puppy pose we did in the beginning with your arms lengthening out in front and then your chest coming to the floor. You're probably losing my arms now in the Zoom, but that's all good. Arms lengthen. You can find your chest dropping to the floor, tailbone lengthening down. Play with it. See which one works well for you. Now that we've been here for a little bit, can you even get like a millimeter more opening in the knees? Find some stillness. Feet together, and we'll slide forward to get yourself out of it. Knees together, slowly press yourself up and back. Child's pose. All right. Pigeon or figure four option. So reclined figure four is your option for pigeon. Right ankle on top of left knee. You'll thread the needle. Keep your low back on the mat and your neck neutral, right? That's option one. Let me just close the window. Right? Option two is your pigeon. Right foot comes across the mat, placing the right knee down on the floor and trying to get the right hip to also touch the floor. Check out the alignment. Right heel, left knee, left heel, all same line. We'll inhale for length, exhale. We'll find your forward fold. And if you can get your head to the ground, try to find that lengthening in your spine. Forearms is also okay. Long arms is also okay. We're trying to find square off of the hips. So left hip forward, right hip back potentially. Let's plant the hands. We'll shift onto the right hip and then swing the left leg around. Start to make your way back onto the right thigh. So internally rotating the right thigh to get onto the top of it, squaring off the hips. Push the left pinky edge of the left foot into the floor. Right ankle pretty much even with left knee. And right ankle aligned back, left ankle aligned back with your right knee and right ankle. The front ankle kind of aligned with the knee here. Option on your back for reclined figure four. We inhale, lengthen. Exhale, find your forward fold, either on the forearms or drop it down. Really lengthen, sink into the hips. Start to plant the hands. We'll push up and shift on to the left hip. That'll bring us all the way down and back onto your low back. Gently round it down. Give yourself a double leg hug here. Knees into the chest. Start to either peace finger bind on the big toes, or you can grab on the outside of the feet. Try to keep your low back pressed into the mat as you draw the knees closer to the floor for happy baby. Right, ankles right over the knees. Deep hip flexion here. And inhale. Lengthen the knees if possible. Find a nice stretch in the hamstrings. Maybe you go feet together. Supine hamstring stretch. Shoulders plug back. Open it back up. Have super happy baby. And regular happy baby. Bending the knees. Give yourself a big hug one more time. And exhale, release it all into your Shavasana. Choose that mantra. Change is good, change is inevitable. The only constant we do have is that nothing is constant. Change is inevitable for the good. Let's roll over onto whatever side you'd like for a little awakening, reawakening. With the offhand, press yourself back up to a nice seated position. Just remember how magical you are to have this amazing body that our spirit and our mind exists in. You have the control to heal yourself with external help or doing it for yourself. This is a little bit of both, right? You chose to be here today. You chose to use us and Feel Good Yoga as your guides to help you, to support you to your best self. And I am super grateful for every single one of you for being here with us, to give us the ability to be our best self for you and for each other. I hope that the light that we can bring into your life goes on to others and creates a ripple effect through the entire planet. We love you. Namaste. The light in me sees, recognizes, believes, and knows the light in you is strong. Thank you for being here. Our website is cloudstudios.com/feelgoodyoga. We have links on the top of the page that will direct you to props like blocks, straps, yoga mats. We also have resistance bands there for the Yoga Fit class. This is a real nice pairing with the Yoga Fit yesterday and this stretch class today to help prepare you for something else later today or tomorrow. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And like I said, I would like to make this as interactive as possible. So if you feel like you are going to definitely take these classes, send us some ideas. Hey, I'd like to work on this. Hey, this bothers me. Hey, I feel this or that. I would love to make these as thoughtful for each individual as possible, at the same time giving a little bit of something for everybody. Thank you. Peace.